outline some of the challenges that we have, but also some of the solutions and the work that is taking place to resolve those challenges.
Head. As our panelists have been introduced, let me also take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Prashil Maharaj for his election as the president of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I wish you everything of the best in executing your responsibilities, sir. I must also congratulate, I know most of you know the face, but he has been appointed recently as the accounting officer of this municipality, our newly appointed city manager, Mr. Mpele. Greetings to the CEO and the chair of tourism. Thank you very much for taking your time to come and join us today when we relate this matter. Good morning to all of you members of the media and members of the public who are following us in different platforms. Let me welcome you all to this joint media briefing with the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry in our city to outline the progress we are making in rehabilitating the infrastructure that was damaged during the April and May floods this year. We'd like to thank the CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce, the President and the Chairperson of Tourism for joining us and availing themselves to this media briefing to assure the business sector that the municipality is working tirelessly to resolve service delivery challenges that disrupt their business operations in the city. When it comes to the state of our beaches, from the onset we wish to acknowledge the frustration and inconvenience that the closure of beaches has caused to the members of the public and the business community, and we are apologizing unreservedly for that particular inconvenience. Beaches are a major tourist drawcard in Durban, and their closure is disappointing to locals and visitors alike. However, the safety of the public is paramount, which is why we are testing our water regularly to ascertain its quality. Our recent tests have confirmed that in our central beaches, water quality is at an acceptable level. It is for this reason that we have recently announced their opening. Ladies and gentlemen, a number of pump stations and wastewater treatment works, such as Joanna and Ohlange sewage pump stations, are largely responsible for the contamination of our seawater. The northern wastewater treatment work is also adding to our problems. We are happy to announce that work to repair this sanitation infrastructure is about to commence following the allocation of disaster relief fund from the National Treasury to rehabilitate these assets. Whilst most welcome, this funding of 184 million rand is inadequate. So we have reprioritized our budget to fast-track these much-needed repairs in our city. The estimated cost of the repairs is 160 million for the pump stations and over 300 million for the water treatment works. It is our faith and hope that these all-important repairs will ensure that our beaches are not contaminated so that they can remain open throughout the festive season. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to report that central beaches that are open include the Bay of Plenty, Ushaga, North Beach, and West Beach. In the south, Mkababa, Mkomazi, Brighton Beach, and Treasure Beaches are now opened. We are appealing to all our visitors to continue to make Durban their home during the summer holidays. Durban is known for its warm and beautiful weather, and we are looking forward to welcome visitors for a safe and joyous festive. So there's no reason to cancel their bookings in this city. In fact, they need to be flooding their bookings to our city. We are ready to host them. Durban is now open for business. In relation to crime and crime, ladies and gentlemen, like any other city in the world, we are not spared by homelessness. As a result, the city, through our Safer Cities program, has come up with a progressive program to rehabilitate our homeless residents who are also affected by a number of social ills. This program has yielded positive results. There are many that have already been rehabilitated. Our intervention seeks to curb, among other challenges, the unfortunate habit of destroying our infrastructure with an intention of selling our assets for survival. We've seen this in many townships where our electricity cables are also stolen and other assets of the municipality. Because of the magnitude of this behavior, we have instructed the head of Metropolis through the city manager to embark on an aggressive law enforcement operation to root out this behavior in the society. Consequence management will be implemented if this situation does not improve within our own systems. We also want to invite communities to play their part because many homeless people come from our communities. In addition, the disruption that comes from vandalized infrastructure negatively affects the same communities to benefit from that infrastructure. To address the challenges of crime, tomorrow the mayor and the Minister of Police will convene a 2-day crime imbizo for Inanda and Umlazi, following our crime statistics that have shown high levels of murder and sexual offenses in these areas. This will culminate into our city's crime summit, which will be held in November this year during the safety month. The focus on crime is most opportune as we build up to the festive season. We want our visitors not only to feel welcome, but also to feel safe. And we must commend the work that is done by SAPS and Metropolis, especially to respond to some of these challenges in township, in the CBD, the manner in which they are trying to resolve these challenges. When it comes to cleanliness, with regards to waste management, we have heard the concerns raised by the business community and by our residents. We have since introduced a targeted approach to rid our city of crime and filth. For instance, in each street in the inner city, we have deployed dedicated teams that are going to pick up litter and sweep the streets in all shifts. And we have already met with the informal traders body, which is their leadership, who have also pledged that they are going to make sure that where they are trading, they are going to ascertain that the levels of cleanliness are preserved. This is going to be complemented by the area managers doing inspections during their shifts in the areas that are supervising. We have also embarked on an intensive communication campaign to encourage residents to clean their environment. We want to appeal to our business stakeholders, particularly in the manufacturing sector, to refrain from disposing of their waste in places that are not designated for this purpose. This behavior lights the face of our city, blocks our stormwater systems, and poses a serious threat to marine life. Ladies and gentlemen, when we launched the City Spring Cleanup campaign last month, we wanted to bring together various municipal departments with the aim of entrenching a sustainable and resilient cleansing strategy. We are committed to sustaining and expanding this cleanup program, working in partnership with various stakeholders, including communities and government, to create a clean and healthy environment. We must also report that big companies are joining us in this cleaning campaign: Toyota, SAP, their part and parcel, and many other companies around the city who have shown a keen interest to assist us to stabilize our city. When it comes to the interventions in the Durban South Basin, which is carrying the big chunk of our investments in the city, as well as the source of revenue for ours as a municipality. So therefore, you will recall that after the April floods, the Durban South Basin was severely affected, and many industries such as Toyota and Sapi, Psycho, suspended their operations. Most of these companies and Monde and others They employ a number of people in this municipality and in the province as a whole. Our electricity, water, and sanitation infrastructure was also not spared, as 3 power substations were flooded. But we are happy and pleased to report that water supply in Umlazi, Sipingo, and Prospecting, which was also cut off as the Umlazi Canal water pipeline was washed away. We want to commend the business committee in the areas for working with us to fast-track the restoration and rebuilding process. What we commend the business is their gesture, where not only physical and morally to support us, but financially to support us as a city to restore these services. We really appreciate that. We are pleased to report that through our joint efforts, Toyota and SAPI have resumed operations and all employees are back to work. As a result, SAPI was able to retain its expansion investment of 7.7 billion rands, which was unveiled by the President last month. Otongati update. We are pleased to report that residents in some part of Tongati have started to receive water from their taps after the completion of tie-in on the Mamba Ridge pipeline on the Hazelmere Waterworks Avondale Reservoir pipeline. We are mentioning this because we are aware that they are not receiving water throughout the day. There are limited hours where they access water. The new connection directs 2 million liters of water a day from the Hazelmere Dam to some parts of Tongat. We are working tirelessly to complete repairs to the Otongat water treatment plant. The full repairs are expected to be completed by end of this month, October. By the 5th of November, we should be able to commission this plant. We can report that currently the progress on the repairs is more than 75% that has been attained. On road rehabilitation, the total number of roads rehabilitation projects recorded after the April and May floods was around 2,371. The number of completed projects so far is 561. More communities can now enjoy improved access to public amenities such as schools and hospitals. Concerning the relocation of flood victims in our city, we have reduced the number of mass care centers from 52 centers to 52 from 120 in the immediate aftermath of the floods. We have a plan to close 1 hall per week, and this has resulted in the closure of Besta, Mawuti, Kloof, Ngokogazi, and Claremont mass care centers. We do this by relocating families to newly built temporary residential units. Our intention is to ensure that all flood victims are relocated from all these mass care centers before December. We want them to celebrate Christmas and other holidays in safer places. Last week, we closed Zwelisha and Jablani mass care centers in Wamashu as well. From 3,950 households that were displaced, we are now remaining with 1,449 households. We are pleased that construction is underway on 1,185 sites that the city has made available to provincial departments of human settlement. Great progress has also been made to procure transitional and emergency accommodation, which includes state and privately owned properties. The city has also supplied 467 households with building material to enable them to get back on their feet. In addition, work has started in Marine Ridge rental housing stock, and repairs in Umlazi T section and Cleveland's hostel are underway. We want to commend private sector and civil society organizations for putting their shoulder to the wheel to address the plight of the displaced flood victims. We are pleased to report that we have also received a donation of 100 housing units from the Development Bank of Southern Africa and 8 houses from the National Lottery Operation Ituba Holdings, and other houses that have been built by the private service providers that are working in the city. We want to assure our residents and the business community that we are hard at work to create a conducive environment for investments That will lead to economic growth, which is inclusive, to ensure that we create much needed jobs and also open the economic opportunities to all people of eThekwini. We'd like to thank all our stakeholders for working with us during this difficult period. Our city will forever be receptive to the guidance and wise counsel of our stakeholders. We are in this together, and we all want to see a safe and prosperous eThekwini. We reiterate that Durban is open for business and to welcome our tourists. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, fanele ngiphendule. All right. Nginikaza umsebenzi onzima. Sibonga kakhulu ukuba khona kukamongameli we-Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry kwi-city, Mr. Maharaj, the CEO and the chairperson of tourism, and our city manager who is also part of the panelist. Sifisa ke ukuthi sikubonge lokhu ngoba kusho ukuthi sisebenza ndawonye nebusiness ukuqinisekisa osomabhizinisi ukuqinisekisa ukuthi umsebenzi wokubuyisela isimo endaweni ejwayelekile edolobheni lethu emva kwekhukhula uyaqhubeka. Sifuna ukukhuluma ngamabhishi ulwandle lethu esilwaziyo ukuthi ilona oluyigolide ekuletheni abavakashi kuleli dolobha lakithi. Sifuna ukucacisa ke ukuthi sibe nesimo la khona esibona amabhishi ethu kumele siphoqeleke ukuthi siwavale. Siyazi ukuthi lokho kudale umonakalo omkhulu kakhulukazi kubavakashi nakubahlali baseThekwini abathanda ukuzijabulisa ngolwandle lwethu. Sifisa ukuxolisa kakhulu ukuthi kwenzeke leso simo, kodwa konke sikwenzayo sibeke phambili ukubhekelela impilo zabavakashi nabavakashi bethu abavela kumazwe angaphandle nabangaphakathi nomphakathi wakithi eThekwini ukuthi siqinisekise ukuthi konke sikwenzayo kuyayivikela impilo zabo, kakhulukazi amanzi ethu asezingeni lokuthi kukwazi ukuthi asebenziseke ngendlela olwandle. Esikwenzileke ukuthi siqhubeke siconduct ama-test, sibheke sihlole ukuthi ulwandle lwethu lumi kanjani, ngabe sesingakwazi ukulivula libhukuthi. Siyajabula ke ukuthi sibike emphakathini ukuthi sesikwazile ukuthi senze umsebenzi ukuthi olunye ulwandle lwethu liqale lisebenze livulwe ngokusemthethweni. Kodwa lo monakalo uphethwe kakhulu udaba lokulungisa i-pump station noma pump stations akhele indawo lapha umgwaqo othi Joanna Street, Joanna Road and Ohlange Sewerage pump stations, okuyizona indawo ke lezo ezidunga kakhulu ulwandle lwethu ngokukhipha udoti zikhiphele emfuleni ugcine usufinyelela ulwandle. Ngakho ke siyajabula ukusho ukuthi umsebenzi kuseyinhlelweni zokuthi uqhubeke wenziwe ukuvuselela lenqala sizinda ngoba yiyo ekumele ikwazi ukulungisa lo msebenzi ukuthi ulwandle lisebenze ngendlela. Siyakubeka ke futhi ukuthi siyakujabulela ukuthi sinikezwe imali uhulumeni kazwelonke elinganiselwa ku-184 million. Leyo mali ke kodwa sibonga kunjalo ukuthi siyitholile ayenele ngoba uma sibheka umsebenzi kufanele mawenziwe ukulungisa lo monakalo wenqala sizinda yethu ngokulungisa nje ama-pump stations kakhulukazi lawa athinta lezi zinto eziphuthumayo azokhosta 160 million. Mase ukuthi u300 million uzokusubhekela ukulungisa izinhlelo zethu nenqala sizinda yethu edlulisa amanzi emphakathini. Siyajabula ngoba sinalo ithemba lokuthi wonke lo msebenzi esiwenzayo ukulungisa lesi simo kakhulukazi ukungcola kwamanzi olwandle uzoqhubeka sikwazi ukuthi umphakathi ukuthi kushaya isikhathi sama-holiday lawo kaKhisimusi naNcibijana abantu bazobe sebekwazi ukubhukuda ngokuphelele olwandle lwethu. Sifisa ke ukubekela umphakathi ukuthi kulolu lwandle lwethu oluphakathi nendawo lapha eThekwini Central Beaches iwona ke esisikwazi ukwavula ngesonto elidlule ilethu iBay of Plenty, ilethu uShaka Beach, North Beach, West Beach, in the south ngale south nakhona sivula umgababa uMkhomazi, Brighton Beach and Treasure Beaches nawo futhi asevuliwe. Siyafisa ke ukucela kubo bonke abavakashi ukuthi baqhubeke nezinhlelo zokuthi belungiselele ukuza lapha eThekwini ngoba siyazi ukuthi iweather iyasivumela isimo sezulu siyazivumela abavakashi bathanda kakhulu ukuza ngapha. Ngakho ke ulwandle lethu luzobe livuliwe, abantu abaqhubeke bengami ukwenza ama-bookings okuvakashela idolobha lethu laseThekwini ngoba nobumnandi butholakala lapha eThekwini. Sifisa ukukhuluma ngesimo sobugebengu esixakile. Siyakubuka ukuthi isimo sobugebengu sigcina sinomthelela omubi kakhulukazi nasegameni nje ledolobha lethu kubavakashi, abatshali bezimali, umphakathi nokungaphephi kwawo. Futhi sikubona lokhu kwenziwa na umthelela wesimo la esibona khona baningi kakhulu abantu abahlala emgwaqweni bengenazo indawo zokuhlala. Ngakho ke idolobha lethu liyaqhubeka nohlelo lalo lokuthi lisingathe lukhusele labo abahlala emgwaqweni nakuba bengekho bonke kulezi indawo esizivulile ukuthi sibanakekele kuzo. Kodwa siyakujabulela ukuthi inhlelo ezenziwa phakathi ziyakwazi ukulekelela ukuthi beguqule indlela abayiphethe ngayo, kakhulukazi laba abadla idakamizwa abayithola bese esimeni sokudla idakamizwa. Namhlanje siyafisa ukuthi sibike ukuthi baningi asebehlomlile kulolu hlelo lokuvuselela izimilo esilwenzayo. Kodwa futhi siyazi ukuthi masingenelela ziningi ingqinamba esibhekene nazo, nokuntshontshwa kwenqalasizinda yethu, amakhebuli kagesi, ukuvandalizwa kweindawo zethu zamanzi, ama-valve ethu njengoba nabona nakwezinye indawo zethu kuthiwa kulinyazwe ivalve. Wonke lo msebenzi usibuyisele emumva uma sihlela intuthuko yomphakathi. Ngakho sinxusa ukuthi sibambisane, sisikhulumene namaphoyisa emetro namaphoyisa iSAPS ukuthi akwenziwe inhlelo zokuthi inqalasizinda yethu ivikelwe ngokukhulu ukusheshsha ukwenza ukuthi umonakalo ungaqhubeki kube mningi, kakhulukazi esimweni esithinta ukuhlinzeka kwabantu ngamanzi kanjalo nokuthuthwa kwendle. Siyafisa ke ukuthi simeme ukuthi bonke sifisa ukudlulisa umyalezo wethu ukuthi bonke labo abasemphakathini abenza amabhizinisi ababambisane nathi ukuthi siqhubeke siqinisekise ukuthi inqalasizinda nomphakathi uyasilekelela ukuthi ingakwazi ukuthi ilimale ngoba kulimaza umnotho lokho mase siqhubeka sikubheka. Siyabheka ke ukuthi inkinga enkulu yobugebengu ngendlela osebukhule ngayo ngaba ubugebengu obuthinta ukubezwa ngokocansi, ukubulawa kwabantu nokulinyazwa kwabantu lapha edolobheni lakithi eThekwini. Kodwa siyajabula ukuthi kusasa sizobe sinongqongqoshe wamaphoyisa kusukela kusasa kuze kube ngomgqibelo uzobe la kuleli dolobha echitha sonke isikhathi sakhe ukubheka ukuthi silwisana kanjani nobugebengu. Lezi imbizo ke imbili eqala izoba lapha eDr JL Dube Stadium ngo-10 ekseni on Friday kusasa, mase kuthi esibini ibe ngomgqibelo ngo-10 ekseni lapha enkundleni ezemidlalo ebizwa ngeKing Zwelithini Stadium eMlazi. Abantu bamenywa ukuthi babe ingxenye yalezi ithangami ngoba kubalekile ukuthi ungqongqoshe abambisane nomphakathi namabhizinisi ukulwa nobugebengu. Kodwa zonke ke lezi inhlelo izobe sezisiholele ekutheni ngoNovember njengoba sazi sonke ukuthi inyanga ezokuphepha sobe sisiba nokukhulela ngoqo wesithangami esikhulu salapha eThekwini sokulwisana nobugebengu ukwenza ukuthi kufike isikhathi samaholide sifike ubugebengu sebehlika busezingeni eliphansi. Kodwa siyawubonga umsebenzi amaphoyisa awenzayo ukuqinisekisa ukuthi nala kuthiwa kuvinjwa khona imisebenzi ama-business forums amaphoyisa angenelela ngokukhulu ukusheshsha nasey'nkingeni nje ezinye zikhona emphakathini zokulwisana nobugebengu. Kusikhathaza kakhulu-ke nathi njengomasipala ungahlanzeki kwedolobha lethu njengoba umphakathi nosomabhizinisi belivezile lesi sikhali ukuthi kumele kube khona okwenziwayo ngalokho. Ingakho-ke sesifaka uhlelo lokuthi sishintshe indlela esenza ngayo ekuhlanzeni idolobha lethu. Abasebenzi siqinise ukubhekwa kwabo bayawenza umsebenzi bawenza ngendlela, kakhulukazi batshalwe endaweni ezifanele uqinisekisa ukuthi udoda usabalala idolobha lonke. Siphinde sisebenzisane nabamabhizinisi futhi ukuthi nabo basijoyine kulolu hlelo lwethu esikwazile ukuthi silethule ngokusemthethweni esilibiza ngokuthi i-spring campaign, clean up campaign. Lolu hlelo lwethu ke lokuhlanza idolobha lufaka phakathi amabhizinisi, lifaka phakathi imiphakathi, inhlangano ezizimele nje banike nabona futhi sihamba nama-artist nawe ezofaka isandla igxalaba eklineni idolobha lethu. So lo msebenzi ke siuqalile uyaqhubeka awumile ukuhlanza idolobha libe sesimweni ngoba idolobha elihlanzekile yile eligcina abantu benempilo enhle ngaphezulu kwalokho nabavakashi nabatshali beyimali bekwazi ukufika. Ngakho ke lo msebenzi uyaqhubeka. Siyakubonga kakhulu futhi ukuthi amabhizinisi amakhulu afana no Toyota no SAB namanye ayangenelela kulolu hlelo lokuklinwa kwedolobha ayasilekelela ukuthi idolobha lethu lihlanzeke. Sifisa ukuthi bonke-ke osomabhizinisi nomphakathi sikuthathe lokhu njengomsebenzi wethu sonke ngoba akuwona umsebenzi kamasipala kuphela. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi laba abadayisa emgwaqweni sithe masihlangana nabo bazinikela ukuthi bazolifaka igxalaba lokuthi idolobha liklinwe besinabo konke lama campaigns esinawo kodwa baqinisekisa ukuthi indawo abasebenzela kuzona zihlanzekile. Sifuna ke ukusho ukuthi umonakalo wawumkhulu kakhulukazi ngapha ngase South ku Durban South Basin la esabona khona ukuthi eningizimu ukuthi umonakalo omkhulu kakhulu emva kwezikhukhula zika April. Lokhu kwenza ukuthi izimboni ezinkulu ezifana no Toyota Sapi kanye nezinye zingakwazi ukuqhubeka zenza umsebenzi ngoba inqala sizinda yadicileleka phansi kakhulukazi kufaka phakathi ama power stations izikhungo zethu la siphehla khona ugesi ukuthi siudlulisele emabhizinisini ukuze akwazi ukukhiqiza izinto ezithinta amanzi izinto ezithinta kanjalo ezendle amapipe endle. Siyajabula ke ukusho ukuthi namanzi beyithinteke zonke lezi indawo ingenamanzi komlazi koSiphingo oProspecting kodwa umsebenzi sewenziwe kakhulukazi kumlazi canal water pipeline esayivuselela ngokukhulu ukusheshsha nezikhungo lezi zikagesi sazivuselela ngokukhulu ukusheshsha ukuze imisebenzi yabantu nomnotho waseThekwini ukwazi ukuqhubeka kuye phambili. Kuzokhumbuleka ukuthi lezi indawo nalezi izimboni izona ezithwele umthamo omkhulu womnotho walapha edolobheni nokuqashwa kwabasebenzi ngobuningi babo. Sifuna ke ukubonga kakhulu umphakathi wamabhizinisi ukusebenza kanye nathi kakhulukazi ukugijimisa lezi zinhlelo bagcina ngakuphela ngokuthi besixhase ngokuba khona endaweni kodwa bagcina sebesixhasa nangemali uqinisekisa inqala sizinda sayivuselela. Ngakho ke siyawubonga umsebenzi omuhle osewenziwe njengoba sikhuluma nje zonke izimboni eDurban South Basin ziyasebenza zibuyelile imisebenzi yabasebenzi ivikelekile nomnotho nathi njengomasipala ila sikoleka khona imali irevenue imali yokwenza umsebenzi ngokwebudget kamasipala. Futhi kuyasijabulisa ukuthi noToyota uqhubekile nama investments awo kanjalo noSapi nawo wawenza umehluko ukuthi ufake more money ukhulisa isizinda sawo nokusabalalisa kwa umsebenzi lapha endaweni yaseMkhomazi ngemali elinganiselwa ku 7.7 billion rands ekuphinde kwaqashwa nabanye abasebenzi abasha. Lo msebenzi ke wonke ubuyethulwa umongameli nengqongqoshe bekhona no Premier no MEC lapha nathi sikhona njengomkhandlu waseThekwini enyangeni edlule. Sifisa ukubeka nje isimo sokuthi othongathi umsebenzi uhamba kahle kakhulu uqinisekisa ukuthi abantu bakithi bazowathola amanzi njengoba sikhumbula nje ukuthi sangenela no minister wamanzi lapha eNingizimu Afrika uHonorable Senzo Mchunu uqinisekisa ukuthi amanzi siyawabuyisa endaweni nakuba sazi ukuthi awabuyile ngokuphelele asabuya awambala abuya ahambe kodwa lo msebenzi uyaqhubeka lapho esingakwazi ukufinyelela khona ukubuyisa ngamapayipi siyaqhubeka sibahlinzeka abantu ngeemoto zamanzi namathangi siwanikeze umphakathi sifike sifake amanzi kulawo mathangi la. Siyabonga ke futhi ukuthi umsebenzi uzobe usuphethwa makuphela lenyanga esikuyona ngoba silindele ukuthi makuphela nje October uphethwe lo msebenzi kumfumfu mase kuba ukuthi ngomhla ka5 kuNovember ilapho kube sekudluliselwa ngokusemthethweni ukuthi abantu sebengaqala ke amanzi sekuhlolwe zonke izinto ukuthi aphume emapayipini abo ngosemthethweni. Izinga ke lo msebenzi esesiwenzile lapho kulungisa inqala sizinda yethu elimele kakhulu. Siyajabula kakhulu ukuthi singaphezulu kwa 75% uhamba kahle umsebenzi sinethemba lokuthi ama timelines siwabekile sizoma kuona. Ukulungisa ke imigwaqo mningi kakhulu imigwaqo ebiyonakele kakhulukazi balula la ku-2371 njengamanje sikwazile ukuthi la ko-561 ibuyisele esimeni imiphakathi ikwazi ukuqhubeka ithola usizo lokuxhumana ngokwezikhungo zomphakathi amakliniki izibhedlela izikole kanjalo namabhizinisi. Ukuthathwa ke komphakathi amalungu omphakathi asuswe kule ndawo esibiza ngama-mass care centers izikhungo njengasemahholo omphakathi njengoba sazi ukuthi umonakalo obamkhulu wahamba nezindlu zabantu zomphakathi wakithi. Ngakho ke siyabonga ukuthi umsebenzi omuhle kakhulu osuwenziwe sesikwazile ukuthi kusukela kulezi indawo beyigcina abantu ezu120 ezu52 seyivaliwe zalezi indawo seyivaliwe iningi seyixele nje ezu52 kuphela. Lezo ke eyisasele sibambisene kahle kakhulu nomnyango wokuhlaliswa kwabantu kusifundazwe ukuthi akungasetshenziswa uhlelo kuphela lwezindlu zesikhashana kodwa kusetshenziswe nohlelo lokuthi sithathe imali kahulumeni no-National Treasury uapprovile lokho kukwazi ukuthi kurentwe indawo ama-properties available azohlalisa abantu ngendlela ehlelekile, kungabi khona abantu abazodlela uChristmas emahholo, bonke abantu bedlela uChristmas nama-holiday besendaweni ehlelekile ngesikhathi kusalungiselwa bakhelwe izindlu zabo ezipermanent. Umsebenzi uhamba kahle kakhulu kangangokuthi nje kwaBesta, eMawoti, eKloof, eNgoqokazi, Claremont, zonke lezo indawo isasanda kuvalwa. Ezinye nje isasanda kuyivala futhi lapha eZwelisha naseJabulani Mass-Care Center kwaMashu. Kubo bonke ke abantu ama-households akhona imindeni ekhona nemphakathi elinganiselwa ku-3,950 ebekade igudluzwe ikhukhula ey'ndaweni ehlala kuzona. Siyafisa ke ukuthi njengamanje sesisele naba 1449 imindeni esasele ekufanele siyilungiselele lezi indawo zokuhlala. Siyabonga futhi ukuthi umsebenzi omuhle wenziwa ukwakhiwa kweindawo zesikhashana ezu-1985 zokubahlalisa kwesikhashana sibambisene nomnyango wezezindlu nokuhlaliswa kwabantu uhamba kahle kakhulu. Kuningi ke sesikuhlomlile kulolu hlelo ngoba abantu bazobona umehluko. Labo abakade benezakhiwo ezi-informal nabo ngokunjalo siqalile ukuthi imindeni engaphezulu kwa-467 siyinikezele izinto impahla yokwakha bevusele lezi zindlu zabo kodwa endaweni eziphephile esesiyibhekile. Mukhulu kumsebenzi wokulungisa nokwakha kabusha indawo ezihlala umphakathi kakhulukazi njengoba sazi ukuthi umphathi waseMaran Ridge ubuhlala ukhala njalo ukuthi awunakiwe. Ngakho ke i-rental stock housing project yakhona iyaqhubeka nalapha eMlazi kwathi section kuyaqhubeka umsebenzi uyenziwe eGlibden's hostel nakhona siyaqhubeka nomsebenzi wokulungisa izindlu nokwakha izindlu. Sifisa ke ukubonga kakhulu kwazi osomabhizinisi abayimele umphakathi wonkana nenhlangano ezizimele ngokuthi ufake igxalaba nesandla ethi unilekelele ekutheni kwakhelwa abantu izindlu ukuze begudluzwe ey'ndaweni ey'ngahlelekile abahlezi kuzona. Sikhuluma nje inhlangano ebizwa nge-Development Bank of Southern Africa okuyibhange lalapha lombuso wase-Afrika. Lelo bhange nalo likwazile ukuthi lifake imali engango-14 million kwakhiwa izindlu eziwu-100 ezokwazi ukuthi isuse abantu bakithi lapho behlezi khona befakwe kulezo zindlu ey'phephile. Kanjalo futhi izindlu eziwu-8 ezakhiwe i-National Lottery Operator iThuba Holdings, siyakubonga lo msebenzi. Bakhona osomabhizinisi abayimele abasebenza nomkhandlu edolobha waseThekwini ngeke sibabale ngoba ilist yabo yinde abakwazi ukufaka igxalaba bakhala abantu izindlu kulesi sikhathi somzima njengoba sabona nomunye ekuthiwa uMamkhize naye enza lo msebenzi nabanye abambisene nabo. Sifisa ke ukuqinisekisa umphakathi waseThekwini nosomabhizinisi ukuthi lo msebenzi siwenza ngokuzimisela abantu bakithi bazokwazi ukusuka ngokusheshsha kulezi indawo. Akekho umuntu esiyimise ukuthi adle ama-holiday akhe nomndeni wakhe wadlele ehholo endaweni engahlelekile angakwazi ukuhlala kahle ngokunethezeka kuyona. Ngakho-ke lo msebenzi esiwenzayo njengedolobha ukuvusela inqalasizinda ukuvuselela amabhishi ethu ukuthi asebenze ngendlela no-swimming pool bethu uqinisekisa abavakashi beza kulolu hlangothi bezothola ubumnandi baseThekwini uyaqhubeka futhi sikulungele ukubamukela abavakashi noma yinini. Siyabanxusa ukuthi bengaze beqale bekhansele ukufika kwabo lapha eThekwini nasemahhotela ngoba bethi amabhishi awalungile. Azobe sevule wonke amabhishi makufika lesi sikhathi sama-holiday kaKhisimusi esesilindele. Sifisa ukusho ukuthi njengedolobha laseThekwini sikulungele ukwenza umsebenzi wethu namabhizinisi asenethuba elihle lokuthi aqhubeka operate. Recently sibonile lapha ko-Springfield inkampani ebeyikade zilinyazwe ngesikhathi se-unrest zivuselelwa eqala esebenza lawo mabhizinisi. So-ke sikulungele ukuthi samukele iy'vakashi. Siyabonga.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, this is the opportunity for you to ask your questions. We'll take them in batches of 3. And as usual, please identify yourself, the media house you represent, and then you can pose your questions. And then we just keep rotating like that. We'll take them in batches of 3. This is number 1, Charles is number 2, and there is number 3.
I'll go next round.
Yes, we go next one.
Okay, I will check.
Probably not.
Okay. Taliso Goga from the Association. Mr. Mayor, you said you've received 185 million last week from the National Treasury. You said yourself that this money is not sufficient, and a lot of these interventions since the floods have been funded by the municipality prioritizing its budget. So that means a number of projects and other stuff that the municipality wants to do this financial year has to be postponed for another year. Has there been, any sort of frustration from regarding the fact that you haven't received a lot of funds from the National Treasury? And is this because we were here in April when the President promised 1 billion? It's 6 months later now, and the total sum that the municipality has received is 185 million. So is there any frustration about the little or insufficient amount received from the national government? And is this something you raised with the national government?
Thank you. Tony Carney, Daily Maverick. My question is similar to my colleagues there. It's in more in the nature of clarity on the funding that's been allocated. You mentioned a figure of 184 million from the Treasury, I think, and then another figure of 150 million for pump stations, 300 million for water treatment works. And my question really is the first figure of 184 million, is that solely for water treatment, so wastewater treatment, or is it split with rehabilitation of water? The Department of Water Affairs gave a presentation where some figures from eThekwini were presented, which suggested that 600 million rand was needed for repair of wastewater. That's separate from water, which was another 400 million, so close to $1 billion. So the question really in a different way is, what is the shortfall financially that the city will have to find somehow? Thank you.
Okay, it's Karenda from Newsroom Africa. The first is perhaps with regards to your repairs of sewage infrastructure, what urgent interventions are you taking? Because we still have these sewage leaks. And along with that, a number of businesses, communities throwing their waste into our natural water sources that is ultimately going to have an impact in all of our lives. So what urgent interventions there? A question for our new city manager, sir. You've spoken about DSW recently. We've got issues where vacancies are not filled, excessive claiming of overtime, and protests. What is your actual plan of action here? And then with regards to the protests, workers are using municipal vehicles to block roads. So who is then given the keys to these vehicles? Is it the same people that blocked the road in the first place? How are you managing that situation? With regards to our energy crisis, you've spoken about a possible plan to reduce reliance on ESCOM and energy transition policy. Perhaps clarity on that. How would we do that? What other resources? And finally, for the Durban Chamber of Commerce, recently SAPI spoke about how the inefficiencies at our port of Durban is affecting their business. So here in eThekwini, how is our lack of service delivery, the problems we have that we've just spoken about, affecting businesses under your umbrella? Thank you.
Let's start by allowing City Manager to start with his administrative issues and we'll come after.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's start with the first question that maybe I'll start from the bottom. Let's start with the question that deals with the issue of employees that are misbehaving by blocking our roads using our vehicles. When people come to work, when they report for work in the morning, they've been allocated vehicles to use. So they never indicate that they are going to use those vehicles to block the road. They always surprise the city when they do that. So that's why it is very difficult pinpoint it up front and deal with it. However, what is more important is what is it that we are doing to deal with those employees. We've already started with the consequence management process. We are going to take tough actions against those people because we don't believe that our residents must always be exposed to a situation like that. Law-abiding citizens of Durban deserve better. So we will deal with that in that fashion. Insofar as dealing with sewage leaks, of course there is an elaborate program to upgrade the entire network. However, we do have a budget that we have set aside to deal with sewer main outbursts, which so far the team has improved in terms of servicing that part. The response generally has been very quick, much quicker than the normal standards that are set out there. So we've done very well in terms of dealing with that particular aspect. But what we need is not the short-term intervention. You need a total overhaul and upgrade of the entire network, which is what we have started doing in the budget that has been allocated to us. If you look at the budget that has been allocated for us to deal with wastewater treatment challenges, I think it's the question that has been asked by that particular gentleman. The budget is never enough that we've received. So there is a need for us to be able to look at innovative ways to get more money. I'm happy to report that through the partnership that we have with our Durban Chamber, we have engaged Infrastructure South Africa from the Office of the President, the Presidency. So we've started a business plan there. There is definitely going to be more financial support for us to be able to deal with this particular challenge. What we've also decided to do was to say, look, a government can never deliver these challenges all by itself. So we are inviting a number of our private sector players that have raised their hands to say we are ready to support. So we are working in a collaborative fashion with them, but we will release those plans in the near future once they are all finalized. I think this question also touches on the question that Charles Okowa from our witness raised. So we, as I said, that we are still expecting additional funding from government. Also, as I said, that we are looking at innovative ways to be able to continue to deal with the shortfall. I must say that we are not sitting and folding our arms saying we are waiting for the national government to give us some money. We've done an aggressive reprioritization process to say that, look, we've just emerged out of a disaster situation. Let us park certain interventions that we can afford to deal with later and prioritize dealing with our infrastructure challenges in the immediate. That's why you are able to see the city progressively opening up some beaches. It's as a result of a lot of work that we are doing with our own resources. So yeah, so it's a cocktail of interventions. We are not, yes, we are indeed hamstrung by the fact that we don't have adequate resources, but we are not sitting, we are prioritizing in innovative ways whilst continuously engaging national government to get more financial resources to deal with our problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our process is to source energy from independent power producers in the city. I'm sure we are advanced. We were at a period when we were expressing their interest in the city, necessary appointments being done. making sure that we prioritize the renewable energy, because we understand and we've got a clear understanding and conviction that as a climate active city, we need to source energy from different sources that also include solar, wind energy, and many other interventions that can be exploited. So we are advanced at the stage, and I'm sure necessary pronouncements will be made as soon as those appointments are done, because we are running processes guided by our own prescripts to allow people to participate in that process. The issue of the 184 that has been allocated, it is a conditional grant. So it is directed to specific projects. There are roads projects which will consume about 71 million rands, 49 million rand for sewer projects that have been funded, the water treatments having 50, and other resources. So we have also added our funding as a city to complement this work, so that we are able to start intervening with immediate effect. Roads alone, what they needed, it was around 1.7 billion to rehabilitate their infrastructure alone, roads alone. So therefore it will tell you that if we have received 184 million, how far are we in terms of attending to the necessary areas that we need to intervene to. But we must also emphasize, the city manager has alluded to the fact that the President, through Infrastructure South Africa, is funding some of our infrastructure projects, especially catalytic projects, which will also enhance our own strategy in the city to attract more investment in this city as we proceed with the rebuilding process. Because whilst we are rebuilding, we mustn't lose sight that the economy must be stabilized, and we must also ensure that we open new jobs, we create new jobs that people need, and economic opportunities. The issues pertaining to the speed in which we are applying our own efforts to rebuild in the city, I think our teams are ready, but the issues of funding will always be an hindrance when it comes to the implementation of some projects. Hence, we appeal. We are told that with this 184, we must account within 6 months, we must spend all the money. But we are also anticipating that when the government nationally now in October reviews its budgets, there are allocations that are going to be made for the city to benefit, to restore these services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The question for the chamber, how service delivery, inconsistencies impact on port operations? That was the question.
Thank you very much for the question. I think before I answer the question directly, let me explain why we're here as a chamber, because we don't often have a joint press conference between government and business. So I think if one look at the economic stats, one cannot deny that this city, this province especially, is facing an existential economic crisis. And we need to avert that crisis. Now, one cannot do the old things and expect them for themselves. One cannot chirp on the sidelines. One cannot just be this constant complainer. So what we at the chamber has decided to do is throw the might of business, of capital behind not only the city, but all the stakeholders that are economic role players to ensure that we avert the economic crisis that could be impending. So we would rather be solution orientated. We would rather say, let's work together in a cooperative and collaborative manner. To answer your question directly, obviously service delivery challenges, the inefficiency in the ports severely impact our business, and as a result, we find low economic growth, we find the cost of doing business increasing. It is a situation we face. We can complain. We have complained in the past. It has not solved the problem. So what we need to do now is become part of the solution. So one will look at, for example, the Transnet issue. Last week, there's a strike. So today, perhaps on Monday, we engaged with Transnet as the DCCI together with our relevant logistics role players to say, what can we do? We even offered to pay a little bit more so they could absorb the increase in wages. When we were hit with the floods, private sector came to the party very quickly. And I think the mayor and the city manager can attest that the reason why we're able to open some of the beaches is because the private sector came to the party, lent private sector efficiency, lent private sector capital, as the mayor alluded to, just that moral support to solve the problem. And I think going forward, that is the kind of relationship that we need between the private sector, government, SOEs, SOCs, and all road players that are integral to the success of the economy. As I said, complaining and fighting government is not the solution. You know, I kind of, don't quote me on this, but we're kind of fighting a war. We're fighting a war against poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And when you fight a war, you have to have a patriotic mindset. All the role players in society, we get together and fight the common enemy. And that is what we're doing now. Yes, undoubtedly, we are facing many challenges, but we have to be solution oriented. We will ask government to make commitments. We will ask at local, at provincial, and national level. And we will ensure that we are not just their praise singers, but hold them accountable to keeping the promises. What we want to do is increase the do-say ratio. But we just don't want to hold them accountable. We want to say, how can we contribute? How can we add private sector capabilities, capacity, efficiency, and innovation to really solving the problems we have as a city, as a province, and as a country?
Thank you. The next round of questions, we have question one, just one. There is two, and there is three, and then two will come back in the next round.
Thanks. It's Kabir Singh from News 24. I just wanted to touch on the issue of the shelters that you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, that the aim for the city is to close 1 week. That's 52 shelters, which means that the last shelter will only close in about a year from now. So I'd just like to find out, those communities would have been, at that point, the last shelter would have been living in those conditions. I mean, you were at Mount Civic Center. It's quite difficult. We're in communication with those community leaders all the time, and they have issues of, people drinking and days. Young kids are picking up swear words and very bad habits from adults because of the very confined conditions they live in. I'd just like to find out, in terms of the TRUs, how many of those have been built? Is that sort of being fast-tracked? Because that was touted as something that would really assist with pulling people out of those shelters. Then the other question I had was about Metro Police. I'm not sure if the Metro Police head is here today. But in terms of the safety of the city and the inner city in particular, this Palisa Pili, during the 1 year commemoration for the July unrest, she mentioned that the business community wasn't feeling very confident after that sort of incident about the safety of the businesses, safety of the employees. Are there any sort of operations that Metro Police has undertaken since then until now that you can maybe mention? And are there any sort of plans to really, if you look at the Point area, if you look at sort of Albert Park, these are places that have been the same for more than decades now. What are the plans that Metro Police have to sort of tackle that? Are they well resourced enough? Do they need more resources? And obviously, you mentioned the cleanup of the city. I think we can all definitely visibly see that the city's declined over the last few years in terms of its aesthetic. What is going to be different this time around? If you look at the beaches, on my way here, the beaches are full of, every single weekend, full of trash. The streets are the same. So how is it going to be different this time around? And I'd like the Chamber to also please comment on your confidence in terms of the safety of the city and the aesthetic of the city.
Good morning. I just want to address the issue of service delivery.
Please introduce yourself.
Zainul Dawud from Daily News. I just want to find out from either the mayor or the city manager, how does the city intend to improve customer service from its e-services and its call centers? I know you guys addressed it before, but the problem still persists. For example, ratepayers and businesses are complaining about problem of sewage leaks, burst pipes, defective roads. You find that when they do a follow-up after a week, the problem still persists, and they are told by the call center that the job is closed. So I just want to find out where the inspectors that are supposed to go on and check that the job has been done properly, the pipe leak has been solved, and how does the city intend to improve this kind of customer service? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. This is Marcia Kanya from the Post newspaper. I was hoping that you would touch on power outages as was communicated to us, but nevertheless, recently political parties were saying that the Ethekwini municipality is essentially contradicting itself because the head of energy transition, Mr. Skinny, said that nuclear power is a possibility for the municipality. However, the communications officer said it wasn't as a result of the energy transition policy that was adopted in June last year. So my question to you, Mr. Mayor, is do you think there is a breakdown in communication in different departments within the municipality? And if so, do you not think that it's going to get in the way of addressing or achieving any of the aims that you discussed today?
Can I request that our panel use mics when they're responding so that those who are picking up the sound can hear clearly?
This nice.
This yes. All the mics.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you very much for the start, Mr. Mayor. Let me start with a question from Havi, the News 24. We have decided to attack this problem of people housed in the shelters. Well, it's not a new decision, it's always been like that. It's been a collaborative effort between all of government, because you may not know that human settlement is a concurrent function between national and provincial government, but we also are a significant player because we are accredited in this particular space. So right from the beginning, we have been attacking this problem in a collaborative effort. We have been meeting on a weekly basis to try to attack it, to accelerate the relocation of people from the homeless shelters. Yes, I do agree with you. The conditions are inhumane. They are not conducive for raising children. They are not conducive for anybody to live there. But because you have to do what we call land assembly, ensure that services are there, ensure that all approvals are in place, regulatory approvals are in place, ensure that where you relocate people to, that particular place does meet basic minimum requirements. So we had an intention as the whole of government to ensure that we clear those homeless shelters as quickly as possible. But as I'm saying, that these are the hurdles that we had to face. So to accelerate their relocation, we've decided to identify vacant buildings across the city, rent them out, convert them into proper residential places. There are some hotels as well that we are going to be renting out, hotels rather, to ensure that people are accommodated there in a humane manner. So we were given a very tight target by our government to ensure that nobody eats their Christmas still in a homeless shelter. It's quite an ambitious target. It's a target that we all know we have to pursue because we care for our people. So we then felt that whilst we are pushing to ensure that people are accommodated and properly, this thing of looking at the rentals is really the quickest way reconfigure those buildings to ensure that they meet the minimum standards in terms of them being for human habitation. So the instruction is that nobody must eat their Christmas there. So the jury is out, so we are busy pushing as hard as we possibly can. The Metropolis, we have one of the hardest Metropolis outfit, hardest working Metropolis outfit in the country, given the myriad of challenges that we are facing. One of our priorities really was to ensure that we regenerate our major urban centers. Inner city, which is the CBD, secondary CBDs, your Pinetown, Isipingo, Kamazindoti, and places like that. Because that is where businesses have an opportunity to thrive. But that is where you find mostly our people concentrated over small spaces. So we have programs that we call inner city regeneration, central business regeneration program. We have the one for the inner city here, if I may refocus, because your question was related to that. We are working with the business community to ensure that we, I'm not sure, Samantha, if I may even start to talk about the discussions that we are having. We had those discussions fresh yesterday, but the business community are coming forward and they are saying, look, we are prepared to sponsor putting the CCTV cameras in areas that are problematic, so that we manage them in a joint effort to ensure that we get our Metro Police to respond and to respond timely. And there is a project as well called e-policing, where we use the state-of-the-art technology to enable response to crimes that are taking place in the inner city. But we have operations that we started doing some time back and which are beginning to bear some fruit. We have Operation Good Hope, in as much as it started off as an operation for cleanup, but it does include issues of enforcement, because most of these challenges are related to enforcement, people illegally occupying buildings and stuff like that. Operation Good Hope has yielded some positive results, but more importantly, we have Operation Overland. So those who live in the inner city, they will know that the Albert Park that we have now is different from the Albert Park that we had 4 months ago, in terms of police visibility, in terms of dealing with enforcement issues, in terms of reducing crime significantly. And some people may say, why Albert Park? But we've decided to ensure that we target areas that were of a significant concern from a crime rate perspective. The next is to really identify this big block in the core of the CBD, which is also very dense, and there are a lot of activities there. So we are doing this in partnership with SAPS, its business communities, but the Metro Police is at the front of that particular problem. Sorry, dealing with that particular problem. We do know, and the business chamber has been telling us, that if you want to keep businesses here, you must ensure that you provide safety. Nobody wants to feel like they are doing a business in the middle of, I don't know where, Baghdad. And they have to feel safe, because what makes businesses run is the footfall. So people must come and they must feel safe. As they come, we need to guarantee their safety, and that is where we are basically putting all our efforts to ensure that we deal with issues of crime. Yes, inner city decline is a big problem. Crime and crime, as I've said, are at the forefront of this. So the inner city regeneration strategy is there. All these Operation Good Hope and Operation Overland, the cleanup campaigns that we've started, are in pursuit of this particular inner city regeneration strategy. So we are promising that the results should be realized very soon. Mr. Dawood, customer services is at the forefront of increasing citizen confidence. So people need to know that they are being heard. Not only being heard, but the response is also swift. We are acknowledging that we have been lacking terribly in this area recently, and I don't want to blame issues of energy intermittence. We are doing a serious overhaul in terms of the systems that we use there, but more importantly, the response. So we have a system that monitors the number of calls that have been received, the number of calls that have been attended to, and the response rate in terms of the national and international standards, in terms of how long it should take you to respond to a call of a water gas and so on. But however, this has not translated to a level where we can be confident that our communities are satisfied. That's why we are putting all our efforts there to ensure that we deal with that. Do we have contradictions amongst ourselves? I haven't picked that up, my sister. So we will obviously have to look into that. But I don't think those contradictions can occur, because before a policy is presented, it is widely canvassed, even on its route to council. We all look into it. But if there has been something like that, we are prepared to look into it to ensure that there are no contradictions. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've left anything out. Let me just leave to the CEO of Chamber here to respond to the questions for Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the media colleagues with us this morning. So I'm going to respond on the issue of security, the question that I made a comment on. It was actually not a year ago, it was a couple of months ago. It was at the anniversary of the July unrest. So there's two areas that from a business point of view we feel needs to be addressed. But maybe first, before getting that, just in addition to what the president of the Durban Chamber has said, the business community has taken a decision that we have to partner with government, we have to be part of the solutions. So around security, the business community has made an investment of money that has been paid in certain areas around security to ensure that it is improved. So there's two areas. The first area is that of a macro threats into our province. So from a macro threat point of view, we saw what happened with the July unrest last year, that there was no coordination between SAPS, Metro Police, private security, and community policing forums. I don't want to go into the details of what we're working on, but I would like to share with you that there is a partnership between the private sector, SAPS, Metro Police, community policing forums, to ensure that when there's a macro threat that is going to be coming into the province, it is dealt with accordingly. I'm sure you have seen some improvement when it comes to, when there were macro threats around the ADTF strikes, closures of the N3. We all worked together to make sure that our province is not going to be, the playground for macro threats that threaten the economy. Then there is the other threats around crime, which is the micro ones, like, the petty crimes, the things that are happening around. That is where we still have a concern, and we still really want to see more being done around crime in those specific particular areas. And again, the business community is still very much keen on doing more investments in those particular areas. And even on that area, again, I really would also like to agree with the city manager in terms of the Metro Police. Whenever there's threats that we come across, we contact the Metro Police. They've been more than exceptional. Whenever we report anything to them, they are quick to respond. And likewise, again, with the leadership, provincial leadership of SAPS under Lieutenant General Kwanazi,
with this partnership that we've actually established with him and his team, we've really seen quite a lot of improvements. But there's still more work that needs to be done, especially around the micro crimes, to ensure that the business community feels very safe and they feel that their businesses are safe. So it's going to be continuous working together to make sure that we see more improvement in crime. And I think coming back again to the tourism threats, in terms of around crime and grime, there's already plans, that both the business communities as well as Metro and SAPS are working on to ensure that our tourists are going to be safe. So work in progress, but still more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those responses. We are a unitary state. We don't have federal governments in South Africa. So the issue of the nuclear power is one of the options that government is also considering to look at. So therefore, we can't be having a position which is against what government will explore moving forward. So we will use everything in our power to ensure that we have a sustainable way of providing and secure electrification, adequate electricity power to our business, to our communities. So therefore there is no contradiction when it comes to that. Whether the current applications will exclude nuclear and all of that, so that is an issue which will be managed going forward. The issue on the, we are the only metro in KZN. I think we must take cognizance of that. So when the city manager was appointed, I had a meeting with him and I said to him, look, CM, some of your responsibilities that you need to expedite is to develop collaborative initiatives with your neighboring cities, neighboring districts and the local municipalities, especially secondary cities. Because the reason why people are coming and migrating into bigger numbers to eThekwini is because when there are no economic activities in other districts, the issues on the access to jobs and all of that, so it's given, they'll all land here. So therefore, as the only metro that exists in the province, we need to be working, he must work with his partners and colleagues in the other districts, so that where they are short of some skills in terms of investments, attracting tourists and all of that, we as a city we also participate to work with them in a form of shared services. Because once we ignore that part, people will always come in numbers to the city and we won't be able to control the city. So it's important that all the neighboring districts are developed, the local economies are also supported in different areas of the province. So that will eliminate some of the challenges. That is why we become an epicenter of everything that is wrong. Diseases, crime and everything, because bigger numbers are here. 4 million people are located in the city, in the province. So therefore it necessitates that we build those collaborative initiatives so that we do not compete with other districts, but we complement each other. Because once we compete, we want to shine as eThekwini, and they are having challenges there, poverty is increasing everything. That will impact negatively to our standing as a metro. So therefore it's important, even when it comes to investments, we can't be jealous and say we want everything to come here in eThekwini. So we will be supporting them to create that conducive environment for investments in different corners of the province, so that we will be able to build a sustainable economy that is inclusive. The issue of cleanliness, the city managers alluded to it, but I must emphasize that we gave him 3 months. I think we must give him a chance. After his formal appointment, we gave him 3 months. We said, city manager, you know the spots that are problematic, So the plan that he was talking about is the plan that he has developed with his management to try and attack this particular challenge and tackle this particular challenge that we are faced with. But also, it's a call we are making to the members of the public. Go to communities where they are adhering to our refuse collection schedules. They are clean. When we collect on Mondays at 10 o'clock, they take their refuse bags before 10 o'clock. Those places are clean. I can guarantee you. Where we experience challenges is where people are not adhering to our own schedules. Whether people are ignoring it, they are not willing to support us to clean this city, because it doesn't just emanate from somewhere else. It emanates from the behavior of each and every citizen. So therefore, it's a collective responsibility. Take your refuse on time, out there on time, on the specific date, then you'll see your place becoming clean. The only thing that the city manager and the SW team must sort out are these illegal dumping sites, illegal dump sites, because they are giving us a lot of trouble. And in the main, it's also businesses that are depositing that refuse in those areas where they know they are not supposed to do that. So we need to enforce. Together with the chamber, we work together so that we can count the number of people that we find. We must find businesses that are not assisting us to clean the city. There are bylaws here. You can't just dump a litter anywhere the way you want to designate your own spots. So it's important that we do that. But whenever the city manager has been appointed, one of his responsibilities is to review the organizational structure, because he's the new city manager. So he must take that responsibility. He's empowered to do that by law. So he must look at whether does this organizational structure work and work better for people of eThekwini, or we need to change it. Because in some instances, you'll see that there are units where when you wait there in the afternoon, you see a number of people there in one building, in the head office. So you can't have a situation where head offices are becoming bigger than the services which are supposed to be taken to different communities. So therefore, it's what that responsibility is seized with that, to change the structure. If it doesn't work, it needs to be changed. But what is also carrying with him, which we've got confidence in that, is the man that is starting to implement consequence management. Because if you decide to engage in an unprotected and illegal strike, there must be consequences for that. No work, no pay must be enforced. But on top of that, not only taking our money back, but also those who are involved must be punished for their behavior. Because to blockade the road, it is illegal, it's not allowed in the country by laws of this country. So whether you are expressing your rights because you've got the rights, but your rights can't suppress other people's rights. Some of those people's rights is to retain their employment. So how do they retain their employment when you blockade the road and their own companies, they fire them because they are not coming on time, because they affect the productivity in the units that they're supposed to produce on a daily basis. So people get fired, they come back and occupy the ranks of unemployment because there is someone who says I'm standing for my right, whilst on the other side you suppress other people's rights. What about a person who's not well when you blockade the road? Are you saying that ambulance mustn't go through there? And then people, what happens if the people die? Who takes responsibility? So these are the things which, with the police, we are talking to them. It's also include the issues of those business forums which are not adhering to the laws. Because business forums must be professional people who are in business. So you can't have someone who calls himself a business forum and a business person, but who does not act professionally, who go to the site and stop the work. That is unethical. So if you can't associate yourself with business, because your mindset is not there. Your mindset is criminality. You break the law. Your mindset is that you want extortion. You want to go there and say, before you work here, I want my 3 million. For what? You must work before you get paid. You can't just be given 3 million for nothing. So the extortion is a criminality act. So therefore, police must act, and police must leave us with the negotiating skills, because we do have negotiating skills as leaders. But police must not go and negotiate with someone who's breaking the law. When you are breaking the law, you must be removed. Then you are directed that go and see the mayor somewhere there in the city hall where you'll be able to raise your issues. So that's the kind of behavior that you are looking for with the police. But with the issue of crime generally, we have the steering committee which involves all the law enforcement agencies. We have the fusion center. I know that you have not been going publicly about the benefits of this fusion center, that we have averted this crime, or we saw somebody, we apprehended somebody through the cameras within the city. I think we need to improve on that to give more progress on what the fusion center is gaining. Yes, it is not yet there, but it is doing something, a change. But we welcome the intervention by business to assist us in cameras, because we need each and every street in this city to have cameras. And those cameras, not just private cameras, but cameras which will be linked with the police work. So once we do that, we'll avert some of the incidents in the city. And we are looking forward to work with all stakeholders. But with all the ismbizo that the minister is bringing to the city, and our big, in November, our big summit, crime summit in the city, those are the initiatives that intends to source wisdom from all stakeholders, religious groupings, business, communities, law enforcement agencies. How can we best work together? Because what encourages people to open cases is when the police act swiftly to resolve cases. But when the committee members recognize that we report cases, but the way the statistics are still increasing, the way the response is coming at a slow pace, then people will be discouraged to report cases. So therefore, police must do their work. They must also fire criminals within the police. That is the solution. Because whenever they have operations, I've been involved in some of these operations. We get there, a point road, people are throwing all these drugs through their windows. Because somebody from within, from the police, has told them that police we are coming for you. So there's a kind of collaboration, communities, stakeholders, but police themselves, they must cleanse their house. Those who are criminals must be removed from that uniform. So we are looking for more improvement on refuse collection. You know that Mr. Rampasa has retired, he took his early retirement. Now there is a new sheriff in town who will be assisting the city manager to turn around things in the city. Thank you.
Do we have another round? This is 1, this is 2, and that is it. That is it.
I'll take the third one.
You take that one?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I have a question for the chamber. Specifically, have you experienced any booking cancellations in the hotel industry, hospitality sector, due to the concern over beach water quality? And you said that you don't want to sit